It began quietly, not with shouting but silence. Lee used to hum while cooking, that faint tune that drifted through the kitchen every evening when I came home, but lately nothing, no music, no laughter. Just the soft click of her phone screen lighting up when she thought I wasn't watching. I told myself it was nothing, work stress maybe, but her eyes started drifting, not absent-mindedly, but purposefully, as though looking through me past me. At dinner we sat across each other. The sound of the rain outside filled the spaces our words refused to. Her fork clinked once. She smiled mechanically and said, "You didn't have to wait for me to eat." That line, soft and hollow, told me I'd already been waiting for something else. Her attention, the distance between us wasn't physical, it was emotional fog, thick and suffocating. Nights stretched into quiet suspicion, the smell of an unfamiliar cologne on her scarf. The sudden shift in her phone password, one she'd always said we didn't need secrets for. Then came the night I found the photos, hidden in a buried folder, timestamped during the hours she said she was visiting her sister. A man's reflection in a cafe window, her face leaning close. My fingers trembled. The world went still, even the traffic outside sounded muted. I didn't confront her that night, not yet. I watched her sleeping beside me, her hand loosely curled around her pillow, peaceful, unbothered. I whispered her name just once to see if she'd stir. She didn't. I felt my chest cave with something that wasn't anger yet, just disbelief. The kind that steals sound from the world. By morning, I couldn't pretend anymore. My heart had known before my mind ever caught up. When she came to the table, I asked quietly, "Who is he?" Her coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. Silence, then her eyes darted fear, guilt, then defiance. She didn't deny it. The air between us shattered. All that remained was the sound of her shallow breath and my own heartbeat cracking in response. When she left the apartment that morning, I thought she'd gone to clear her head, but hours turned into a night that never ended, and by the time she came back, she wasn't wearing her wedding ring. I'd wake at 3 a.m., stare at the dent in her pillow, and wonder if he held her the same way I used to. The room still smelled faintly of her perfume, soft jasmine, cruel in its persistence. Her family called, asking why she hadn't been visiting. I stayed silent. What could I say? That their daughter had thrown away years for a stranger. I didn't delete the photos, not right away. They sat in a hidden folder, proof of something I once needed to deny. I'd open them sometimes, trying to understand the look in her eyes, the light that wasn't for me anymore. Then one dusk, her father came by. Gray hair, quiet wrinkles of kindness. He looked at me with concern and said, "She won't talk to us either. Please tell us what happened." So I did. I showed him everything, the pictures, the messages. He didn't say a word. His eyes filled with the same quiet disbelief that once lived in mine. When he left, he said softly, "You deserved better, son." That sentence hurt more than anything. The next few days blurred together. Occasionally I'd glimpse her name online, a tagged photo, a location check-in, each one twisted the knife deeper. I met the other man once, by accident, outside a coffee shop downtown. He recognized me. I saw it in his sudden hesitation, the flicker of guilt across his face. He didn't apologize, just said, "You should move on." The arrogance in his tone nearly broke me, but I saw something else too, fear. He already knew the storm coming his way. Lee's family had seen the evidence. They'd turned cold. She'd burned every bridge she thought would still hold her. Night after night, I sat by the window, watching rain trails on glass. Sometimes I thought about calling her, not to scream, but to understand, to ask, why wasn't I enough? But the phone stayed silent. One evening, her sister sent me a message. "She's gone to stay with him." "I'm sorry." I stared at the screen until the letters blurred, then quietly deleted the folder of photos, not out of forgiveness, but fatigue. The next morning, I decided not to check her messages again. As I brewed coffee, sunlight slipped through the curtains, pale, hollow, almost forgiving. For the first time, I realized I might survive this. But survival isn't healing, it's the long space before it. And in that space, her absence became louder than her betrayal. It had been 6 months. The city had shifted seasons, cherry blossoms wilted into early summer dust. I'd moved on in fragments. A new couch, a new haircut, silence that didn't bite anymore. Then she appeared again. I saw her in the reflection of a cafe window, hesitant, thinner, eyes softer than I remembered. She held herself like someone walking through the ruins of her own choices. "Ethan," she said quietly, almost like she didn't believe I was real. I didn't answer at first. My throat tightened, but my heartbeat didn't stutter like it used to. "What are you doing here?" I finally asked. "I left him." Her voice broke on the last word. "I made a mistake." "Of course she did." She reached for my hand across the table. I didn't move. Her fingers hovered in the air between us, a ghost of what used to be. "I thought you'd hate me," she whispered. I exhaled, a small, bitter laugh escaping. "I did, then I didn't. Then I stopped trying to name it." Tears slid down her cheek. The cafe noise faded. The air felt heavy with unsaid things. She looked tired, not from lack of sleep, but from running from herself. I told my parents, she said softly. They won't speak to me. I wanted to fix it. The word fix stung. Some things don't break, they dissolve. I don't think it's something you fix, I said. You just learn to live with the cracks. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Outside, rain started again, like the first night it all fell apart. She stared at her untouched cup, trembling fingers wrapped around the handle. Then she asked, "Do you still love me?" Silence stretched unbearably. "I don't know," I whispered, "but I remember what it felt like." Her face crumpled not in guilt but sorrow, and I realized forgiveness isn't warmth, it's exhaustion. She left quietly, no goodbye. Just an understanding glance, the kind that ends stories gently. I sat there for a long time, tracing circles on the wet tabletop with my finger. Outside, her figure disappeared into the gray, and for the first time I didn't chase her. Autumn came back like an old memory. Soft wind, yellow leaves against concrete. Time had moved, and so had I. I still lived in the same apartment, but it didn't feel haunted anymore. The walls had learned new silences. The couch no longer waited for two people. Her father called one evening. His voice carried quiet reconciliation. "She's rebuilding her life," he said. "We're helping her." I smiled faintly, though he couldn't see it. "I'm glad." When I hung up, I realized I meant it, not out of indifference, but release. One Sunday morning, I found her letter slipped under my door. No name, but her handwriting unmistakable. Inside, a single page. She wrote that she was sorry, not asking for another chance, just peace. She said she finally understood what she'd lost, a man who would have stayed even when love got hard. I folded the letter neatly and placed it inside my drawer, not to revisit, but to remember I once loved deeply enough to hurt. That evening, the rain returned, quiet but gentle. I opened the window, letting the cool air in, breathing it like forgiveness. There's beauty in endings when you stop fearing them. I sat by the window with my coffee, watching the city glow under the drizzle. The cup warmed my hands. The silence didn't ache anymore. She's out there somewhere, living differently, and I'm here finally whole, not because she returned, but because I let her go. The clock ticked softly. Another sunrise waited beyond the clouds. And I whispered into the still room, "Thank you for living."